Dear listener, peace be upon you. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the Day of Judgment, the day about which there is no doubt, the Resurrection Day, which features prominently in the Quran. Actually, if we were to look in the Quran carefully, we will see that this day is really what the narrative is all about. In the beginning of the Quran, the first chapter starts out with praise belongs to God, the Lord of all mankind, master of the day of judgment. And so this day is the focus of the Quran because if we are to ever attain taqwa, as it says in the Quran, then we are to believe in the day of judgment because otherwise all our actions will be diverted towards the temporal life, which is obviously not going to last. And when the day of judgment arrives, then the day of eternity starts. And this life will seem like part of a day or an hour. Because what is this life as compared to eternity? It's nothing. So the Quran is very specific that this day of judgment is the focus of the believers. And the people in this world, uh, the atheists, and even the religionists who claim to follow a religion when in actuality they don't really follow anything except their vain desires. Not all of them, obviously, there are good and bad people in every stripe of religion. But what I'm trying to say is that the majority of people that we encounter on a daily basis, even though if they profess to believe in the day of judgment, they don't really believe in the day of judgment. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. Because again, the concept in the Quran of good deeds is not limited to worship of God, definitely remembrance of God and reading His proofs in the Quran, reciting the Quran. These are all duties incumbent upon the believers, but it's much more broader than that. It's actually feeding the poor, uh, speaking kindly to mankind, taking care of your parents. These are also good deeds, and that's the point of this life to accumulate as many good deeds as we can, because these good deeds are going to be shown to us, and based on the belief in God and the last day and good deeds, we will enter heaven or paradise or the garden. So we shouldn't be wasting our time worrying about what's going to happen with us in this life, because the way I see it, this life is not worth the effort. As in, things have moved beyond a point where we are waiting for God's judgment. And so the focus should be in purifying ourselves and warning others of the day of judgment and doing good deeds. Protesting, wasting time on Facebook or arguing with people is not going to help us. It's the truth is the matter is that it's every man for himself. And the Quran talks about that in many places where it says that on the day of judgment, man will run away from his wife, his children. They will only be concerned about themselves. And so the only person we can help is ourselves. So let's focus our efforts into becoming men of God, becoming pure, restraining ourselves from the pursuit of pleasures and obeying our vain desires and serving God. That is the only way we can hope for the mercy of God and enter heaven. I would also advise the believers who are looking to purify themselves or consolidate their faith to start reading the Quran more and more. Make it a habit to read it 4 or 5 times a day, and turn away from entertainment, mass entertainment, and vain talks and a waste of time, because the way I see it, we are basically approaching the end game here. And now more than ever, it's important that those of us whom God has guided, thanks be to Him, they concentrate on purifying themselves and getting closer to God and remembering the hereafter, because that is the key to success according to the Quran. It's not accumulation of wealth, it's not accumulation of power or prestige or honor among your friends or family. It's the accumulation of good deeds and God's acceptance. That is really the goal of the believer. So I have compiled a list of verses that talk about the hour in the Quran, the day of judgment, and the motif is really about the hereafter, and some of the punishments that are described in the Quran about hell, which is the reality. And however much you think you're being tortured in this life, or you're depressed, or you think things are worse, this is nothing compared to what the hell fire is going to be, and the depression and the despair that someone who is thrown in it will encounter, and there's no escape from that, and that is eternal. So I hope these verses give you some perspective on the true objective of every believer, which is to avoid hellfire at all costs and to remember the day of judgment, which is near at hand. So let's begin. They have lost who repudiate the meeting with God. When the hour has come upon them unexpectedly, they will say, "Oh, I regret that we neglected it." And they will bear their burdens upon their backs. In truth, evil is what they will bear. Chapter 6, verse 31. They ask thee about the hour. When is its arrival? Say thou, knowledge thereof is but with my Lord. None reveals its time save He. It weighs heavily in the heavens and the earth. It comes not upon you save unexpectedly. They question thee as thou wert privy thereto. Say thou, knowledge thereof is but with God, but most men know not. Chapter 7, verse 187. Because if we look at it, we take a step back, we see that the hour will be established when we die, because when we die, we leave this temporal existence and we are moved into the eternal existence. And so for us, when the hour comes all of a sudden, as in we die unexpectedly, nobody expects to die, it just unexpectedly happens, then for them, the hour has been established. Continuing on. Do they then feel secure against an enveloping of the punishment of God coming upon them, or the coming upon them of the hour unexpectedly when they perceive not? Chapter 12, verse 107. Again, the unexpected part of the hour coming at them, which obviously means death. And we created the heavens and the earth and what is between them only aright, and the hour is coming, so forbear thou with comely forbearance. Chapter 15, verse 85. As in, just let go, put all your trust in God. To continue. And to God belongs the unseen of the heavens and the earth, and the matter of the hour is only as the twinkling of an eye, or nearer. God is powerful over all things. Chapter 16, verse 77. I am God, there is no God save I. So serve thou me, and uphold thou the duty for my remembrance. The hour is coming, I almost hide it, that every soul shall be rewarded with what it strives for. And let not divert thee from it him who believes not in it, but follows his vain desires, lest thou perish. Chapter 20, verses 14 through 16. O mankind, be in prudent fear of your Lord. The convulsion of the hour is a tremendous thing. The day you see it, every nursing mother will neglect what she suckles, and everyone bearing will deliver her burden. And thou wilt see mankind intoxicated, yet not intoxicated. But the punishment of God is severe. Chapter 22, verses 1 and 2. And the hour is coming, there is no doubt thereof, and God will raise those in the graves. Chapter 22, verse 7. The truth is, they have rejected the hour, and for him who rejects the hour have we prepared an inferno. When it sees them from a place far away, they hear the fury and the moaning thereof. And when they are cast into a constricted place thereof, bound together, they call thereupon for destruction. Call not this day for one destruction, but call for many destructions. Chapter 25, verses 11 to 14. And the day the hour comes, the evil doers will despair, and there will be none to intercede for them among their partners, and they will deny their partners. Chapter 30, verses 12 to 13. And the day the hour comes, the evil doers will swear that they tarried but an hour, thus were they deluded. Chapter 30, verse 55. The people ask thee about the hour. Say thou, the knowledge thereof is but with God. And what can make thee know, but that the hour may be nigh? God has cursed those who spurn guidance while claiming virtue, and has prepared for them an inferno, they abiding eternally therein forever. They will find no ally or helper. The day their faces are tossed about in the fire, they will say, would that we had obeyed God and obeyed the messenger. And they will say, our Lord, we obeyed our masters and our great men, and they led us astray in the way. Our Lord, give thou them double punishment, and curse thou them with a great curse. Chapter 33, verses 63 to 68. Now, right here, you're seeing what their regret is, that they obeyed their masters and great men. And similarly, right now, what's going on? We see all these experts coming up on TV scaring you or telling you that this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and that you should obey them and follow their guidance. So, this is something to think about, that we should be obeying God and obeying the messenger. And obviously, the messenger is not among us anymore. So, if we are to obey God and his messenger, then we should follow the Qur'an exclusively, because that is what the messenger brought with him. And if we obey God and we follow God, then there is nothing else to fear besides Him. And if we do not obey God and follow His guidance, then everything around us is to be feared. So it's really a choice that everyone has to make, whether they want to obey God, the ultimate judge, the king, or obey these deceivers and pretenders and experts and think that they can save them, because they cannot save them. To continue. God it is who sent down the law with truth and balance. And what can make thee know but that the hour may be nigh? Those who believe not in it seek to hasten it, but those who heed warning are apprehensive of it, and know that it is the truth. In truth, those who dispute the hour are in profound error. Chapter 42, verses 17 and 18. And as for those who were indifferent to warning, were not our proofs recited to you, and you were proud and an evil doing people? And when it was said, the promise of God is true, as is the hour about which there is no doubt, you said, we know not what the hour is, we think only conjecture, and we are not convinced. And the evil of what they did will be clear to them, and there will surround them that whereat they mocked. And it will be said, this day do we forget you, as you forgot the meeting of this your day. And your habitation is the fire, and you will have no helpers. This is because you made mockery of the proofs of God, and the life of this world deceived you, so that they come not forth therefrom. nor are they allowed to make amends. Chapter 45, verses 31 to 35. The truth is, the hour is their appointment, and the hour is more calamitous and more bitter. The evildoers are in error and insanity. The day they are dragged into the fire upon their faces, taste the touch of burning. Chapter 54, verses 46 to 48. Now let's look at some of the things that, some of the verses that talk about punishment of hell. Those who deny our proofs, we will burn them in the fire. As often as their skins are consumed, we will change them for skins other than them, that they might taste the punishment. God is mighty, wise. Chapter 4, verse 56. Interesting fact is that when you have, I think it's called a third degree burn, your nerve endings are basically fried as well, so you can't feel any pain. So here, what's being talked about is that when that happens, they will be replaced with with basically fresh skins, new skins, so they can um, feel the pain again and again and again and again. To continue, O you who heed warning, many among the rabbis and the religious scholars consume the wealth of men in vanity, and forsake the path of God. And those who amass gold and silver, and spend it not for the cause of God, give thou them tidings of a painful punishment, the day it will be heated in the fire of hell. Then therewith will be branded their foreheads, and their sides, and their backs. This is what you amass for your souls. Taste what you amassed. Chapter 9, verses 34 and 35. Now, this verse specifically talking about the religious scholars, and we're not just talking about rabbis and priests, we're talking about all religious scholars, which also incidentally includes the priests of Islam, the sheikhs and ulemas and muftis, and all these other guys who are leading men to the fire because they are consuming the wealth of men in vanity. And I'm sure you know certain people, personalities in the US who have big mansions and who have millions of dollars in um, money rolling in from their various institutes and foundations, etc. So they are amassing gold and silver, and that will be heated up, and they will be punished by it because they led people astray and they were themselves astray. To continue, behind him is hell, and he is given to drink of pure water. He gulps it, but scarce can swallow it, and that comes at him from every quarter, but he is not to die. And behind him is a stern punishment. Chapter 14, verses 16 and 17. Then, by thy Lord, will we gather them and the shaitans, then will we bring them round about hell on bended knee. Then will we extract from every sect those of them most severe towards the Almighty in disdain. Then will we best know those most worthy to be burned therein. And there is not one of you save will arrive at it. That is upon thy Lord a determination decreed. Then will we deliver those who are in prudent fear, and leave the wrongdoers therein on bended knee. Chapter 19, verses 68 to 72. Whoso comes to his Lord as an evildoer, for him is hell. Therein will he neither die nor live. Chapter 20, verse 74. You and what you serve besides God are the firewood of hell. You will arrive at it. Had these been gods, they would have not arrived at it. But all are therein abiding eternally. For them therein is moaning, and therein they hear not. Chapter 21, verses 98 to 100. And whose balance is light, these are they who lose their souls, they abiding eternally in hell, the fire scorching their faces, and they scowling therein. Were not my proofs recited to you, and you rejected them? Chapter 23, verses 103 to 105. Is this better as a welcoming gift, or the tree of Zaqqum? We made it a means of denial for the wrongdoers. It is a tree that comes forth at the source of hell. Its spades as the heads of the shaitans. They are to eat thereof, and fill the bellies therewith. Then on top of it they have a scalding liquid. Then is their return to hell. They found their fathers astray, and they hastened, falling hard upon them. Chapter 37, verses 62 to 70. Now, this tree of Zaqqum is mentioned another place in the Quran. Here we have in chapter 44, verses 43 to 50. The tree of Zaqqum, the food of the false, like molten brass, it seethes in the bellies like the seething of scalding liquid. Take him and drag him to the midst of hell, then pour over his head the punishment of a scalding liquid. Taste thou, thou art the mighty, the noble. This is that whereof you doubted. The day we say to hell, art thou full? And it will say, is there more? Chapter 50, verse 30. And your Lord said, call to me, I will respond to you. Those who are too proud for my service, they will enter hell abased. Chapter 40, verse 60. Now, this word service, ibadah, which obviously Muslims take to mean praying 5 times a day, definitely this word has a connotation of calling to God, remembering Him, doing good deeds. So here, obviously, it's talking about that we should take God as our ally and protector, as in we should call to Him if we need anything, and He says He will respond to us. And those who are proud, as in they think they can do things by themselves or they have the resources, then those who are proud and do not call God for help, they will enter hell based. To continue, this is hell which the evildoers repudiate. They will move between it and a fiercely scalding liquid. Chapter 55, verses 43 and 44. And for those who reject their Lord is the punishment of hell, and evil is the journey's end. When they are cast therein, they hear its wailing, and it boils up almost bursting with rage. Whenever a host is cast therein, the keepers thereof ask them, came there not to you a warner? They will say, verily, a warner came to us, but we rejected and said, God has not sent down anything. You are only in great error. And they will say, had we listened, or used reason, we would not be among the companions of the inferno. And they will admit their transgression, away with the companions of the inferno. Chapter 67, verses 6 to 11. And as for him who is given his decree in his left hand, he will say, would that I had not been given my decree, and had not known what is my reckoning. Would that it had been the end. My wealth has not availed me. Gone from me is my authority. Take him, and fetter him, then burn him in hell, then insert him a chain, the length whereof is 70 cubits. He believed not in God the tremendous, and encouraged not the feeding of the needy. So there is for him no intimate friend here this day, nor food save of ghislin, which none eat save those in error. Chapter 69, verses 25 to 37. Now, right here we see that it's saying he encouraged not the feeding of the needy. So this is something that everyone should be doing. You should not, I mean, encouraging the feeding the needy is the bare minimum. You should actually be feeding the needy. Something anyone can do. And the other thing that I looked up was that I wanted to know what's talking about when it says they then insert him in a chain, the length whereof is 70 cubits. And cubits is actually an old system of measurement, and approximately 1 cubit is about the size of your forearm. So about the length of the chain, which is basically going to bind him, is going to be about 74 arms long. So I mean, again, the whole idea about hell is that it's a constricted space, and that that basically they are chained, they can't really move around. Whereas the idea of the paradise, heaven, the garden is about basically openness and freedom. So again, because these are two opposing places, if you will. Anyway, to continue, hell is lying in wait for those transgressing all bounds, a journey's end. They will tarry therein long ages. They will taste therein neither coolness nor drink, save a scalding liquid and an intense cold as meet reward. Chapter 78, verses 21 26. So, this place, hell, is basically a place of contradictions, whereas it's about discord, right? It's about basically I'm reminded of the something in the Bible that talks about the gnashing of teeth, right? And you see in the Quran many places where you see the inhabitants of hell arguing with each other and cursing each other. So it's fitting that it's talking about a scalding liquid and an intense cold, because these are two basically uncomfortable things, right? Well, not even uncomfortable, torturous things, if you will. So again, these are all, God willing, we don't ever get to experience this place. But uh, when the Quran talks about heaven and hell, it's talking about it in terms of parables, because we haven't really encountered that reality yet. To continue. And hell that day is brought, that day will man take heed. But how will the reminder be for him? He will say, would that I had sent before me for my life, and that day none will punish as his punishment, and none will bind as his binding. Chapter 89, verses 23 to 26. So that pretty much wraps up um, some of the selected verses from the Quran about hell and the hour and the day of judgment. Again, I do encourage you to read the Quran as frequently as you can, and to try to remember God as much as you can, to turn away from vain speech, false speech, wasting time in frivolous activities, and work on purifying yourself, and obviously doing good deeds. And because we're all waiting for the day of judgment. The world we live in is a sick world, it's an evil world, and now it's gotten to the point where uh, only God's judgment, when it comes, when his help comes, can this world ever have a chance of surviving. So at this point, we really are living in a truly evil age. At least that's what I think. And I, you know, I feel blessed, and we all should be very humbled and privileged and blessed that God has guided us and showed us the path. So my message to you is to forget about this world, as in don't don't be concerned. Obviously, we all have duties in this life. We are supposed to take care of our families and obviously earn a living and those sort of things. But try to remember the hereafter and try to think about the hereafter more and more. Remember the garden, and look in the Quran for the descriptions of the garden. Read them again and again, and they will be adorned with bracelets of gold and silver, and they will have um, fruits and meats, whatever they desire, and all the other things in heaven, which are promised to the believers if they are patient and seek help in God, and follow the Quran, and uphold the duty. So, God willing, um, we inherit this beautiful place, and may God guide us to the straight path. God willing, until the next time, peace be upon you.